Hi, and welcome to Leveraging AI for Daily Tasks. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can save time with AI on the types of tasks that you do every day as a teacher. My name is Emma Pass. I'm an EdTech consultant, the author of The Hybrid Teacher, and I'm a secondary English teacher who uses AI pretty much every day. Before we get started, when I say AI, I'm talking about generative AI. So these are the chatbots and image generators that are able to replicate human speech and images in this really kind of new and incredible way. I'll be using ChatGPT to demonstrate, but if you use Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini, just know that those can produce really similar outputs. So I tend to start my day checking my email if I have time. And ChatGPT can save me a lot of time with certain emails. Now, if it's a really quick response, if I just have to give like a sentence or two, just confirm or answer a question, I still tend to write those myself. But if the email requires really a thoughtful response, I've found using AI saves me a lot of time in constructing that response. If I know what I want to say, but I just need a little bit of help phrasing it, it can save me a bunch of time. I'm going to show you a real example from my class this year. I had a student who was using inappropriate language in my class. And when I addressed it with him, he was complaining about his First Amendment rights. So I had to kind of construct this thoughtful response about, what your First Amendment rights look like in school and why they might be different than they are outside of school. So I wrote a prompt asking ChatGPT to construct this response, and ChatGPT gave me an email that was fantastic. We tend to call AI outputs like an 80-20 rule with use, meaning AI tends to give you about 80% usable content, and then you kind of have to edit 20% on your own. In this case, you can see even in the brackets, it's left space for me to provide the student's name. And I really find this to be true, right? This is like 80% usable, and I just made a couple little adjustments to it. So in certain cases, AI can save you a lot of time with emailing. Again, I would use it for those like parent emails, or emails where you're kind of dealing with a difficult subject. Then I use AI in lesson planning. I sometimes will use it just like as a brainstorming partner to do lesson planning from scratch. But oftentimes, kind of in my day-to-day, I already have lessons that I've either planned in years previous and I'm just looking to like adjust and update. So I found AI really helpful in helping me like reflect on my lessons and make small improvements. And this is just a quick list of the ways that I've used AI to help me improve my lessons. So I might be asking AI to generate images as like visual aids. And maybe I haven't been able to find great visual aids before for this particular subject or content. I might ask AI, how could I make this, or how could I give my students more choice in this lesson or in this project? How could I integrate art into this lesson? Where could I ask my students to turn and talk, or could you provide me prompts? Where could I add stories into this? We know, humans are really wired for stories. So in any subject, how could we use AI to help create story around it that really helps it stick in our brains? How could we make this connect to relevant everyday life, or make it culturally relevant for a certain group of students? How could I create scaffolds within this better? Or how could I provide models better? Obviously, we don't have time for me to demonstrate all of these today, but I could quickly show you how you might do some of this work. When I jump over to ChatGPT here and scroll up, I have a lesson right here called the Power of Words lesson. This is a lesson that I asked ChatGPT to help me generate from scratch. And I might say, can you provide me with some turn and talk prompts to go with this lesson? And there's the output. And here it's giving me some prompts. Share a time. So this is a lesson called Power of Words. It was for Words Matter Day. Share a time when somebody's words had a big impact on you, either positively or negatively. How did it change the way you feel or acted that day? That's a great prompt. That could even be a journal prompt too. So oftentimes ChatGPT is like a brainstorming partner for me. And what it provides me, I didn't even intend it to be used that way, but I can kind of adjust it. So that's one example. You could say, hey, I have this lesson about X, Y, and Z, or if you have the lesson plan, copy and paste it in, and then ask for those additions. Can you help me scaffold this? Could you help build movement into this? Or how could we involve art into this? I'll also show you from my history. I was teaching a lesson to students called The Staircase, I believe it's called. And it describes this woman in the story. And she's a woman, a big woman in a green trench coat with beady black eyes. And as I was reading the story, I was trying to give like certain visual cues and moments to help them remember it. I could not find a great picture of a big woman in a green trench coat with beady eyes. So I asked DALL-E, in this case, this is ChatGPT's image generator, a big woman in a green trench coat with beady black eyes. And then from this process, I was able to take one of these images that it provided me and use that as the little visual aid as I was reading the story. This can be a really fun one to do with students. So after reading a piece or learning about something, you could ask students to help you create the prompts and then generate it. It also can be a great conversation starter about like bias and misinformation, which is something I always encourage you to learn about and talk with students about before you start using, because if you see my prompt, I asked for a big woman, but AI has a bias towards women being slender and rather model-like. So that's an interesting thing just to notice and point out with students. And then finally, in my day as a teacher, after I've planned and taught, I'm often grading and giving feedback. Now, I wouldn't trust ChatGPT to do 100% of my grading yet. I don't think it quite correlates with like a human's critical abilities, but I think it could help us improve our feedback, either by helping us figure out how to identify positive feedback in student work. It could help us figure out how to make the feedback actionable, and help make the feedback into reflective feedback for students. So ask them reflective questions. We'll do one more little example here. I'll pull over a student's example of work. This was a compared essay, and I have the rubric down here at the bottom. So I'm going to start by just grabbing the rubric, then go to ChatGPT, and I'll give it a prompt and say, can you help provide feedback on a student's work? Act as a 7th grade English teacher and provide positive, actionable feedback with a reflective question for the student to answer. Here is the rubric. I'm going to paste that rubric in, and I'll say, let me know when you are ready for the student work. I typically do that because I'm giving multiple pieces of work. So I'll say, I'm going to give them one at a time, and you're going to give me feedback on each one. So ChatGPT is going to process that as I copy the student's piece of work. and it says, I'm ready, please go ahead and share. Here's the student's work. I've just pasted it directly into ChatGPT. And now below, let's see. So it's giving pretty like in-depth feedback here, which you might want to provide to students. But the last thing I'll say about using ChatGPT is it's really an iterative process. There's often a back and forth that takes place. The image example, I probably would go back and say, could you make this woman bigger? In this case, I'm going to go back and say, can you simplify this into one paragraph written at a 7th grade reading level, right? So I almost never take the first output I'm given. It's a conversation back and forth, and that's why it is called a chat bot. And as you go, right, you'll learn how to provide more and more accurate prompts the first time. So now we have this feedback. Great job on your essay. You've shown understanding, history of the two works. You might try adding more specific details. Watch out for small mistakes in your writing. Think about this question. How do changes affect our view of what really happened, right? So as the teacher, I might agree with this. I might edit it. It might be that 80-20 rule, but it's given me a really like helpful framework to have some positive feedback, some actionable feedback, and a reflective question for the student to answer. Hopefully, at least one of these strategies could help save you some time in your day. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and email list to get more helpful tips in your inbox.